Did you know that you can use cannabis as a psychedelic? Yes. And I'm talking about a psychedelic that can be as strong as maybe anything you've ever tried. Yes. This is Eddie with a Mindful Emergence, where Margaret and I offer you mindfulness, movement, and breathing practices for healing and spiritual transformation. We're in the waking up business, and most of our work now is with plant medicine and how to bring that together with these other modalities for maximum benefit. So, cannabis, weed, pot, smoke, grass, Mary Jane. It's got a million names. It's been used, this plant's been used for thousands of years by indigenous cultures, very um, practically, therapeutically, intentionally. And of course, in our culture, in Western culture here in the States, it's been a pretty familiar plant for about 100 years. And I'd have to say, and you'd probably agree, that most of the time it's been used recreationally. And that's okay. But in my case, it became a problem. So I started using cannabis when I was about 18. I know I'm a late bloomer. There wasn't any of that stuff around when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s in a small town in upstate New York. But when I went away to college, I experienced cannabis for the first time. And for me, it was amazing. I thought I had seen God. It was incredible. And I never wanted to not be high. And this became a problem and eventually morphed into use of other drugs. Yes, it was a gateway to LSD and cocaine and eventually heroin and needles, which ended up with me being in prison for a couple of years for narcotics. And then later, I continued to use cannabis, but I used it to check out, to numb, because while I was in prison, I experienced some pretty severe trauma. And coming out, I didn't have skills to be able to work with it. But what I found out was I could just get loaded and I wouldn't feel the pain. I never went back to the other hard stuff, but cannabis and alcohol uh, were a real problem with me for a long time. And then finally, I reached the point in 2006 where I stopped using cannabis. I said, I can't do this anymore. It just creates too many problems for me. I really am addicted to cannabis. And then there was a long period of time until about 3 years ago where I started exploring edibles. And I was using them, to be honest, for pain relief, but and also just for pleasure. And then I met my friend Dave. And Dave actually had taken a course at a place called the Center for Medicinal Mindfulness in Boulder, Colorado, through this organization. Daniel McQueen led the training and wrote this book. If you're interested in how cannabis can be used intentionally, get this book. I don't make any money off of it. I'm just saying this is amazing. And then I started experiencing using cannabis intentionally for healing and therapeutic. And my friend Dave did some events that we participated in that were unbelievable. I was experiencing expanded states of consciousness that was right up there with anything I've ever done. And I've done pretty much every kind of medicine out there, ayahuasca, you name it. And this was unbelievable. And it had a friendlier aspect to it than some of these other medicines, a way of really getting into my body in a way that I could start noting and tracking experience and really working with sensations in a skillful way. And it's really helped me overcome uh, some vestiges of trauma that I've carried with me for a long time. So here's what's happened. Margaret and I read the book and we've been studying this stuff. And I mentioned that I was going to tell you how you can use cannabis. Now, this is not a comprehensive explanation I'm going to give you. If you want that, get the book. Okay. But here's the deal. Here in North Carolina, cannabis is not legal. It's still Schedule 1. Um, course, in about half of the states of this country, it is legal or at least decriminalized. But in North Carolina, they have something called THCA. THCA is basically cannabis that's picked early before the concentration of THC has reached the level where it suddenly is a Schedule One plant. So they pick it early and they sell it. Now, if you smoke this stuff, suddenly it activates the THC levels and you can get just as enhanced or high off of this stuff as you can the cannabis that you were buying from cousin Joey, who was growing it out in the backyard. Now, if you haven't been around cannabis for a while, here's something you need to know. It's about 3 to 4 times stronger than what was ingested decades ago. So, here in Asheville, North Carolina, there are several dispensaries. And there's a couple in particular that I really like, and I'm going to mention them because they've been really good to me. The first one is Franny's Pharmacy, and that's where I've got our edibles that we started working with. So, learn about edibles. Typically, what I do if I want to have a psychedelic experience with this medicine is I will take about 25 milligrams of Delta 8 or 10 milligrams of Delta 9, which is a stronger edible. Margaret takes much less, she's much more sensitive. And then I also ingest a blend of cannabis that's called an alchemy blend. So you have it within the cannabis strains, you have sativa, which is activating and very mental, and you have indica, which is the opposite of activating, and it's very body oriented. And you have all these different ranges of very strong sativa all the way down to very strong indica. So, what Daniel McQueen recommends in the book, and our friend Dave recommends, is that you get a blend. And you get in this particular case, I have a strong sativa. This one's called Apple Tart. I've also really like Hawaii 5-0. These have some great names. So that's a very strong sativa. Then you take a very strong indica strain. Now, everything is a hybrid, everything is a blend, but some are very pronounced in either sativa or indica. So I got this indica called LA Kush. This was at Sunfruit, which is in downtown Asheville on Battery Park. And so this is my indica. And then you need a mid range, something kind of middle of the road that is got some indica, it's got some sativa, but they're pretty balanced. In this particular case, I got something called LA Kush. Now, you don't have to get these particular strains, but if you go to a dispensary with a knowledgeable bud tender, knowledgeable, some of the people that work in these places don't know shit, okay? But down at Sunfruit, they have people who are very knowledgeable. You explain to them what you want, and they can help you pick out the strain. All right. Now, I mentioned Hawaii 5-0 earlier. It just so happens that Sunfruit, also, the owner of that dispensary has a coffee shop that's right next door at the second level called Little Amsterdam. And that's where I bought this. I don't know if you can really see the label or not, but it's basically a place where you can go and purchase cannabis and also ingest it on the site. They're open 5 days a week, four, maybe four, I'm not sure. At guess what time they open? 4:20, right? So this is a great place. So I got this Hawaii 5-0 there. So you combine these and then you grind them all up and ingest them. Now, I use 3 strains. You can use more. Dave has blended as many as 7 or 8 different strains. And the more strains you get, the more terpenes and endocannabinoids and all this blend. It's called the entourage effect. And what it does is it just enhances the experience even more so than just smoking one particular strain of cannabis. Now, what we do is we've taken the gummy, then we smoke, then we also do breath work. We do something that's basically holotropic breath work, where you put on headphones and an eye mask and you listen to music for an entire hour. Now, doing this breath work in and of itself can take you to an expanded state. But if you've ingested the medicine and then do the breath work, it's incredible. And there's a lot of other things that you can do as well. But the idea is that beforehand, you make sure you have got a proper mindset, you have a good, safe setting, you think about your intention. I always meditate beforehand. And then after the experience is over, at some point in time, we really do the integration work. We do the journaling. She and I talk about it. I really do my best to try to unpack the experience and see what I got out of it. All right. That's the difference between using this medicine intentionally and just, getting loaded and going to see a Fish concert, which again is fine. There's no problem with that. You can use any of these medicines like psilocybin mushrooms or any of these to just experience joy. There's a lot of pathways to waking up, you know? So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. If you have any experience with this, please put something in the comment. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. And of course, you can always subscribe. Make sure if you want to get notified of future videos that you hit that bell to the subscribe next to the subscribe button. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.